The arrival. The night sky over New York City erupted in a dazzling display of light, but this was no natural phenomenon. A massive alien vessel, stretching nearly a mile in length, materialized above the sprawling metropolis. Its surface shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence, defying human comprehension. World leaders scrambled to convene an emergency meeting as panic gripped the globe. Military forces worldwide were put on high alert, though deep down, everyone knew their most advanced weapons would be mere toys against such advanced technology. As dawn broke, a message reverberated across every communication channel on Earth. The voice was deep, resonant, and unmistakably alien. People of Earth, we are the Zorkath. For millennia, we have traveled the cosmos, testing the mettle of civilizations. Your world now stands at a crossroads. We offer you a choice, a duel to determine your fate. The message continued, explaining the terms. The Zorkath would send their greatest warrior, and Earth must choose a single champion to face them. If Earth's champion won, the planet would be left in peace. If they lost, Earth would become another conquest of the vast Zorkath Empire. In the United Nations emergency session, heated debates erupted. Some argued for launching a preemptive strike, while others insisted on attempting diplomatic negotiations. But as reports flooded in of the Zorkath's impenetrable defenses and overwhelming firepower, a grim reality set in. They had no choice but to accept the challenge. The alien vessel released a smaller craft, which descended upon the plains of Giza, touching down beside the ancient pyramids. From it emerged a figure that sent shivers down the spines of all who witnessed it, either in person or through the lenses of countless cameras broadcasting worldwide. The Zorkath champion stood nearly 8 feet tall, its body a seamless blend of organic muscle and advanced cybernetics. In its hand, it wielded a sword that crackled with energy, capable of cleaving through the toughest materials known to man. This was Zarkon, the undefeated blade of the Zorkath Empire. Zarkon's voice boomed across the desert. I stand here, representing the might of the Zorkath. For 1,000 years, I have faced the greatest warriors of 100 worlds. None have survived. You have 7 Earth rotations to present your champion. Choose wisely, for the fate of your species rests upon this duel. As Zarkon returned to the ship, governments worldwide frantically began their search. Special forces operatives, champion athletes, and martial arts masters were all considered. But deep down, a chilling thought persisted. How could any human stand against such a being? In Tokyo, an aged martial arts master named Hiroshi Tanaka watched the broadcasts with a heavy heart. He had long since retreated from the world of combat, believing that the age of true warriors had passed. But as he saw the fear in people's eyes and the desperation of world leaders, something stirred within him. Hiroshi knew of one who might stand a chance, a student he had trained years ago before a bitter disagreement drove them apart. This student had shown potential beyond anything Hiroshi had seen in his long life, mastering techniques that should have taken decades to perfect. With trembling hands, Hiroshi reached for an old rotary phone he kept more out of nostalgia than use. He dialed a number he had memorized but never used, praying that it still worked. After several rings, a gruff voice answered. "This number is not in service." "Wait," Hiroshi exclaimed. "Kenji, it's me. The world needs you." There was a long pause before the voice replied. "The world turned its back on me long ago, Sensei. Why should I care now?" Hiroshi's voice cracked with emotion. "Because if you don't, there may not be a world left. Please, Kenji, you're our only hope." In a remote mountain cabin, thousands of miles away, a man named Kenji Sato stared at the phone in his hand. His weathered face, scared from countless battles, betrayed no emotion, but in his eyes, a fire that had long been dormant began to flicker to life. Kenji walked to a locked chest in the corner of his sparse living room. With a deep breath, he opened it, revealing a katana of exquisite craftsmanship. As his hand wrapped around the hilt, memories of years of rigorous training flooded back. He had left the world behind, disillusioned by the politics and corruption that had tainted the pure art of the sword. But now, faced with the extinction of his species, Kenji realized that some things were worth fighting for, even if the odds seemed insurmountable. As the sun set on the first of the 7 days Earth had been given, Kenji stepped out of his cabin, katana in hand. The fate of humanity now rested on the shoulders of a man who had sworn never to draw his blade again. Little did the Zorkath know, they had awakened a force that would challenge not just their champion, but their entire understanding of what it meant to be a true warrior. The Chosen One. As news of Kenji Sato's emergence spread, a mixture of hope and skepticism rippled across the globe. Many questioned how a single swordsman, regardless of his skill, could stand against the cybernetically enhanced alien warrior. Others clung desperately to the belief that this mysterious figure might be humanity's salvation. Kenji's journey from his mountain retreat was a silent one. As he traveled, he observed a world gripped by fear. Streets emptied, families huddled around televisions, and military vehicles patrolling cities. The weight of his responsibility pressed heavily upon him. Upon reaching Tokyo, Kenji was immediately whisked away to a secure facility where world leaders had gathered. The room fell silent as he entered, his presence commanding attention despite his unassuming appearance. Kenji stood before them, a man of medium build with graying hair tied back in a traditional topknot, his katana hanging at his side. "Mr. Sato," began the Secretary General of the United Nations, "we understand you've agreed to represent Earth in this duel. But we must ask, do you truly believe you can defeat this alien warrior?" Kenji's eyes scanned the room, taking in the mixture of hope and doubt on the faces before him. "Belief is irrelevant," he replied, his voice steady and calm. "I will do what must be done." A military general stepped forward, frustration evident in his voice. "With all due respect, we're facing a technologically advanced being. Surely we should be focusing on finding a way to match their technology, not relying on ancient weapons." Kenji unsheathed his katana in one fluid motion, the blade gleaming under the fluorescent lights. This ancient weapon carries within it the spirit of countless warriors who came before. It is not merely steel, but an extension of the human will. He resheathed the sword with equal grace. Technology can enhance the body, but it cannot replicate the indomitable spirit of humanity. His words resonated through the room, silencing further objections. Even the most skeptical among them couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope in the face of Kenji's unwavering resolve. As the meeting concluded, Hiroshi Tanaka approached his former student. The years melted away as master and pupil stood face to face once more. "Kenji," Hiroshi began, his voice thick with emotion, "I know we parted on difficult terms, but I want you to know." Kenji raised a hand, silencing his old sensei. "The past is behind us, Master Tanaka. What matters now is the future of our world." Hiroshi nodded, understanding the unspoken forgiveness in Kenji's words. "Then let us prepare. We have much work to do and little time to do it." Over the next few days, Kenji and Hiroshi secluded themselves in a traditional dojo on the outskirts of Tokyo. While the world outside buzzed with activity, government strategizing, scientists analyzing every scrap of data on the alien technology, within the dojo walls, time seemed to stand still. Kenji's training was unlike anything he had experienced before. Hiroshi pushed him to his limits and beyond, refining techniques that had lain dormant for years. They sparred from dawn to dusk, their wooden bokken clashing in a dance of precision and power. But it wasn't just physical training. Hiroshi knew that to face an opponent like X-Archon, Kenji would need to achieve a state of perfect harmony between body and mind. Hours were spent in meditation, Kenji delving deep into his psyche, confronting his fears and doubts. On the eve of the 5th day, as they sat drinking tea after a grueling session, Hiroshi broached a subject he had been avoiding. "Kenji, you must understand. This duel, it may be a fight you cannot win." Kenji sipped his tea, his face betraying no emotion. "I am aware, Sensei. Hiroshi leaned forward, his eyes intense. Then why? Why risk everything? Kenji set down his cup, meeting his master's gaze. Because sometimes the fight itself is what matters. Win or lose, I will show the Zorkath and the world what it truly means to be human. As the sun rose on the sixth day, news came that Exarchon had demanded to see Earth's champion. The alien warrior had grown impatient, questioning whether humanity had the courage to face him. Against the advice of world leaders, Kenji agreed to the meeting. In the shadow of the Great Pyramid, human and alien stood face to face for the first time. Exarchon towered over Kenji, his cybernetic enhancements gleaming in the desert sun. "This," he scoffed, his voice a metallic growl. "This is the best Earth has to offer." Kenji stood unflinching, his hand resting lightly on his katana. "Size and technology do not determine the worth of a warrior," he replied calmly. "Tomorrow, you will learn this lesson." As Archon's laughter echoed across the sands, bold words from a species on the brink of extinction. "I look forward to adding your blade to my collection of conquered worlds." As Karkam turned to leave, Kenji called out, "Remember this moment, Exarchon. It's the last time you'll underestimate humanity." The alien paused, then continued walking without a backward glance. But those who watched closely noticed a slight hesitation in his stride, the first seed of doubt planted in the mind of the seemingly invincible warrior. As night fell on the final day of preparation, Kenji sat alone in his quarters, his katana laid out before him. He ran his fingers along the blade, feeling the history and tradition imbued within the steel. Tomorrow, he would carry not just his own hopes, but the hopes of all humanity into battle. Closing his eyes, Kenji took a deep breath, centering himself. In his mind, he saw not the fearsome alien warrior he would face, but the faces of countless humans. Children playing in parks, elderly couples walking hand in hand, families sharing meals. These were the people he would fight for. With a sense of calm purpose, Kenji opened his eyes. Whatever the outcome, he was ready. Tomorrow, the fate of Earth would be decided, not by technology or brute strength, but by the unconquerable spirit of one man standing against the stars. The duel begins. Dawn broke over the Giza Plateau, painting the ancient pyramids in hues of gold and red. A tense silence hung in the air as thousands gathered to witness the duel that would determine the fate of humanity. Millions more watched through screens across the globe, hearts pounding in unison. Kenji arrived dressed in traditional samurai attire, a simple black kimono and hakama. His katana, polished to a mirror sheen, hung at his side. As he walked towards the designated dueling area, the crowd parted, many reaching out to touch him, as if drawing strength from his presence. Hiroshi stood at the edge of the crowd, his eyes glistening with a mixture of pride and concern. As Kenji passed, their eyes met, and a lifetime of teachings passed between them in that single glance. No words were needed. The Zorkath ship hovered ominously above, its massive form casting a shadow over the arena. With a flash of light, Sarkhan materialized on the field. The alien warrior's cybernetic enhancements seemed even more intimidating in the harsh desert sun, his energy blade humming with barely contained power. A neutral third party, a representative from a galactic council, stepped forward to officiate the duel. The being, tall and ethereal, spoke in a voice that resonated in the minds of all present. "The terms of this duel have been agreed upon by both parties. The fate of Earth hangs in the balance. This contest will continue until one combatant yields or is no longer able to fight. There will be no outside interference." The being's gaze swept over the assembled crowd. "May this duel be honorable and just." Kedzarkhan sneered at Kenji, his voice dripping with disdain. "Last chance, human. Yield now, and I'll ensure your death is quick." Kenji's reply was calm, his stance relaxed but alert. "A true warrior does not boast, Exarchon. Let our blades speak for us." With a roar of anger, Sarkhan lunged forward, his energy blade slicing through the air with incredible speed. Kenji's response was a blur of motion, his katana meeting the alien weapon with a shower of sparks. The clash of their blades sent shockwaves across the arena, kicking up clouds of sand. The opening exchange set the tone for what would become a battle of legends. Sarkon's cybernetic enhancements gave him superhuman strength and speed, his energy blade capable of cutting through nearly anything. Yet Kenji moved with a fluidity that seemed to defy the laws of physics, his katana always precisely where it needed to be to parry or deflect. As the duel progressed, the stark contrast in their fighting styles became apparent. Sarkon fought with raw power and aggression, each strike meant to end the fight in a single devastating blow. Kenji, on the other hand, embodied the principle of soft power, redirecting his opponent's energy, finding balance in every movement. Minutes stretched into hours, and still neither warrior gained a clear advantage. The crowd watched in awe as human and alien danced their deadly dance across the sands. Sarkon's frustration grew with each thwarted attack, his movements becoming more erratic and forceful. "Why won't you die?" the alien warrior bellowed, launching a flurry of strikes that would have overwhelmed any other opponent. Kenji didn't reply, his focus absolute as he weathered the storm of blows. But those watching closely noticed something remarkable. With each exchange, Kenji seemed to be learning, adapting. His movements became more efficient, his counters more precise. As the sun reached its zenith, Sarkon unleashed a powerful overhead strike, channeling energy through his blade to create a blinding arc of light. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed that Kenji had finally been overwhelmed. But at the last possible instant, he sidestepped, allowing the energy blade to pass mere inches from his face. In that brief window of opportunity, Kenji struck. His katana flashed in the sunlight, finding a gap in Sarkon's defenses. The alien warrior roared in pain and disbelief as the blade bit deep into his cybernetic arm, severing crucial connections. Sarkon stumbled back, his left arm now hanging useless at his side. For the first time since the duel began, fear flickered in his eyes. "Impossible," he muttered. "No human could." Kenji resumed his ready stance, his breathing controlled, and even despite hours of intense combat. "Your mistake, Sarkon, was in believing that humanity's strength lies in our bodies. Our true power comes from something you can't enhance with technology, our spirit." With a snarl of rage, Sarkon charged forward, his remaining arm swinging his energy blade in wide, destructive arcs. Kenji met the onslaught, his katana a silver blur as it deflected and parried. But now, the tide had clearly turned. Where before Kenji had been on the defensive, now he pressed his advantage. Each movement was deliberate, each strike targeted with surgical precision. Sarkon found himself being driven back, his superior size and strength now a hindrance against Kenji's lightning-fast attacks. The crowd, which had been holding its collective breath for hours, began to stir. Whispers of hope spread like wildfire. Could it be possible? Could this human warrior actually defeat the seemingly invincible alien champion? As the duel entered its final phase, the very air seemed charged with energy. Sarkon, realizing that victory was slipping away, gathered his remaining strength for one final desperate assault. His energy blade crackled with power, the sand at his feet turning to glass from the intense heat. For the glory of the Zorkath Empire, Sarkon roared, launching himself at Kenji with every ounce of his cybernetic might. Time seemed to slow as Kenji watched the alien warrior approach. In that moment, he felt a connection not just to his years of training, but to every human who had ever faced overwhelming odds and found the courage to stand tall. With a deep breath, Kenji centered himself, allowing instinct and spirit to guide his final move. As Sarkon's blade descended, Kenji moved. It wasn't just a physical movement, but a perfect harmony of body, mind, and spirit. His katana met Sarkon's energy blade not with force, but with a redirecting flow that sent the alien's own power coursing back through his weapon. There was a blinding flash, a sound like thunder, and then silence. As the dust settled, the crowd strained to see the outcome. When visibility cleared, a collective gasp rippled across the arena. Exarchon lay on the ground, his energy blade shattered, his cybernetic enhancements sparking and failing. And there, standing tall with his katana held high, was Kenji Sato, Earth's champion, bloodied but unbowed. The galactic representative stepped forward, its voice ringing out across the stunned silence. The duel is concluded. Earth's champion stands victorious. As per the terms of agreement, the Zorkath will withdraw, and Earth shall remain free. A moment of disbelief hung in the air, and then jubilation. The crowd erupted in cheers, tears of joy and relief flowing freely. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged triumphant. As medical teams rushed to attend to both warriors, Kenji knelt beside the fallen Exarchon. The alien's eyes, filled with a mixture of pain and bewilderment, met Kenji's. "How?" Exarchon croaked. "How did you defeat me?" Kenji's reply was soft, meant only for his fallen opponent. "Because I fought not for myself, but for every human on this planet. Our strength lies not in our individual power, but in our connection to one another." As Kenji rose, he felt the weight of the moment settle upon him. He had not just won a duel, he had changed the course of human history. As he walked off the field, supported by Hiroshi and surrounded by cheering crowds, Kenji knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity had proven itself on a galactic stage. The stars, once a distant dream, now beckoned with new possibilities. And it all began with one man, armed with nothing but a sword and an indomitable spirit, standing against the universe. Aftermath and awakening. In the days following Kenji's historic victory, Earth experienced a transformation unlike any in its history. The initial euphoria of survival gradually gave way to a profound shift in humanity's collective consciousness. For the first time, mankind truly understood its place in a vast, complex universe. Kenji, despite his desire to return to his solitary life, found himself thrust into the role of a global icon. World leaders sought his counsel, scientists clamored to understand the techniques that allowed him to counter Exarchon's advanced technology, and children around the world began taking up martial arts in unprecedented numbers. But it was not just Kenji who had changed. The duel had been broadcast across the galaxy, and Earth suddenly found itself the subject of intense interstellar interest. Representatives from various alien civilizations began arriving, some seeking alliances, others merely curious about the planet that had defied the mighty Zorkath. 1 month after the duel, Kenji stood before the United Nations General Assembly, his simple attire a stark contrast to the formal suits surrounding him. As he spoke, his words were transmitted to every corner of the globe. The challenge we faced was not just a test of one warrior against another. Kenji began, his voice calm yet carrying to every ear. It was a test of the human spirit. We proved that our strength lies not in technology or physical might, but in our capacity for growth, adaptability, and unity. He paused, his gaze sweeping across the assembly. But our victory brings with it a great responsibility. We have drawn the attention of the galaxy. Now, we must decide what kind of presence we will be in this larger community. Kenji's speech sparked a global dialogue about Earth's future. Nations that had long been at odds found common ground in the face of these new challenges and opportunities. The concept of a unified Earth government, once dismissed as idealistic fantasy, now gained serious traction. Meanwhile, the scientific community experienced a renaissance. The glimpses of advanced technology displayed by the Zorkath had ignited imaginations worldwide. Researchers worked tirelessly to reverse engineer what little they could from the scant data collected during the alien visit. But it was in the study of Kenji's fighting style that the most revolutionary discoveries were made. Scientists found that the harmony of mind, body, and spirit he had achieved during the duel had actually altered his physical state on a quantum level. This discovery led to breakthroughs in fields ranging from medicine to space travel. 6 months after the duel, humanity took its first tentative steps into the galactic community. A delegation, with Kenji at its head, embarked on a diplomatic mission to neighboring star systems. The katana that had saved Earth now served as a symbol of peace, its mere presence a reminder of humanity's potential. As Earth's influence grew, so did the challenges it faced. Not all alien species welcomed this new player on the galactic stage. The Zorkath, though honoring their agreement to leave Earth alone, began to make aggressive moves against Earth's new allies. It was during a tense diplomatic summit on a neutral world that Kenji once again found himself face to face with Tarkhan. The alien warrior had been rebuilt, his cybernetic parts more advanced than ever. But as their eyes met, both recognized a change in the other. "You've come far, human," Tarkhan rumbled, his voice lacking its former arrogance. Kenji nodded respectfully. "As have you, Tarkhan. I sense a difference in you." The alien warrior was silent for a moment. "Your victory, it forced me to question everything I believed. The Zorkath have always relied on strength and technology, but you showed us a power we didn't understand." "And now?" Kenji asked. Tarkhan's cybernetic eyes flickered. "Now, I seek to understand. The Zorkath Council does not approve, but I believe there is much we could learn from Earth." This conversation marked a turning point. Over the next year, a small but growing faction within the Zorkath Empire began to advocate for a change in their society's warmongering ways. Tarkhan, once the Empire's greatest champion, now led a movement for reform. As humanity's second year among the stars drew to a close, Kenji found himself standing on the observation deck of Earth's first faster-than-light spacecraft. Behind him stood a crew representing every nation on the planet, chosen not just for their skills, but for their embodiment of the spirit that had allowed humanity to triumph. As the ship prepared to make its maiden voyage, Kenji's hand rested on the hilt of his katana. The blade that had once saved humanity would now guide them into a new frontier. "Captain," a young officer approached, excitement evident in her voice. "We're ready for your command." Kenji turned, a small smile on his weathered face. "Thank you, Lieutenant." He faced the viewport, the stars beckoning. "Let's show the universe what humanity can do." As the ship engaged its drive, streaking into the unknown, Kenji reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a solitary swordsman to the symbol of human potential, his path had been one of continuous growth and understanding. The challenges ahead were many. There were still those in the galaxy who viewed Earth as a threat, and the lessons of unity learned in the face of alien contact were sometimes forgotten in day-to-day life on Earth. But Kenji had faith. He had seen the indomitable spirit of humanity firsthand, had wielded it like a blade against impossible odds. As Earth shrank to a blue dot behind them, Kenji made a silent vow. He would continue to guide humanity, not as a warrior, but as a teacher. The way of the sword, the harmony of body and spirit, the strength found in unity. These were the gifts he could offer to a species taking its first steps into a vast and wondrous cosmos. The stars stretched into lines of light as the ship entered hyperspace. Humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning, and Kenji Sato, the unlikely hero who had opened the door to the universe, stood ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Legacy of the Sword. A decade had passed since humanity's fateful duel with the Zorkath, and Earth had undergone a transformation that would have seemed impossible in the years before. The planet, once divided by borders and ideologies, now stood united under a global federation. Cities gleamed with a blend of human ingenuity and alien technology, while orbiting stations served as gateways to the stars. Kenji Sato, now in his 60s but still possessing the vitality of a man half his age, stood before a class of young cadets at the newly established Galactic Academy. The institution, built on the very spot where he had faced Tarkhan, served as a symbol of humanity's commitment to understanding and peace in the cosmic community. The sword, Kenji began, holding up his katana for all to see, is more than a weapon. It is a teacher, a mirror of the soul, and a bridge between worlds. He sheathed the blade with practiced grace. Each of you carries within you the same potential that allowed humanity to stand against the unknown. Your challenge is to unlock it, not just for yourselves, but for all you will encounter among the stars. Among his students were not only humans but also young aliens from various species, including, surprisingly, a few Zorkath. The reforms Harkon had championed had slowly but surely changed the Empire's aggressive stance, leading to a fragile but growing alliance with Earth. As class ended, Kenji made his way to a special meeting. In a chamber designed to accommodate various alien physiologies, he found himself face to face with a group of galactic leaders. Among them was Harkon, now serving as the Zorkath ambassador to Earth. Master Sato, the alien warrior, nodded respectfully, his cybernetic body now streamlined and less overtly militaristic. We've received troubling news from the Outer Rim. A new threat approaches, one that may require the unity of all our peoples to face. Kenji listened intently as the situation was laid out. A hive mind species, utterly alien in thought and form, was expanding rapidly, consuming all in its path. Diplomacy had failed, and conventional military tactics proved ineffective against their swarm-like attacks. "We need your insight," a telepathic being from the Andromedan Alliance chimed in. "Your victory against the Zorkath showed us that there are ways of thinking, of fighting, that transcend our individual limitations." Kenji closed his eyes, centering himself as he had done countless times before. When he opened them, the assembled leaders saw not just the warrior who had saved Earth, but a symbol of hope for the entire galaxy. "What we face," Kenji began, his voice calm but filled with conviction, "is not just an external threat, but a challenge to our very understanding of existence. To prevail, we must do more than fight. We must evolve." Over the next months, Kenji worked tirelessly with scientists, strategists, and diplomats from dozens of species. The teachings of the sword, balance, harmony, the union of opposites, were applied to everything from battle tactics to first contact protocols. Earth's shipyards worked around the clock, producing vessels that combined the best of multiple species technologies. Kenji's understanding of energy flow led to breakthroughs in shield systems, while the mental discipline of the samurai inspired new forms of hive-mind countermeasures. As the galaxy prepared for the coming storm, Kenji found himself once again preparing for battle. But this time, he would not fight alone. At his side stood a diverse team of warriors and scholars from across the cosmos, each bringing their unique strengths to bear. The day of confrontation arrived with little fanfare. On the bridge of the flagship, Harmony, Kenji stood with his hand resting lightly on his katana. Around him, beings of all shapes and sizes worked in perfect synchronization, a living embodiment of the unity he had long championed. As the hive-mind fleet appeared on their sensors, filling the view screen with a writhing mass of biomechanical ships, Kenji felt a sense of calm purpose wash over him. This was why he had been spared, why humanity had been given its chance among the stars. Not to conquer, not to dominate, but to show a new way forward. "All ships, assume formation," Kenji commanded, his voice carrying to every vessel in the Allied fleet. "Remember your training. We fight not just for ourselves, but for all sentient life. Let us show the universe the power of unity and diversity." With that, the battle was joined. It was a conflict unlike any the galaxy had seen, not just a clash of weapons and technologies, but a war of philosophies. The hive mind's overwhelming force met an enemy that adapted with every encounter, each species' strength covering another's weakness. At the heart of it all was Kenji, his sword no longer a physical weapon but a symbol of the principles that guided their every move. Where the hive mind sought to consume and assimilate, the Allied forces created connections that respected and enhanced individual strengths. The battle raged for days, but slowly, inevitably, the tide turned. The hive mind, for the first time in its existence, faced an opponent it could not simply overwhelm. In a final, desperate gambit, it attempted to assimilate Kenji himself, seeing in him the key to its enemy's power. But as the hive mind touched Kenji's consciousness, it encountered something it had never before experienced: true harmony, the balance of yin and yang, the power of the individual acting in concert with the whole, the strength found in diversity rather than uniformity. These concepts, alien to its very nature, caused the hive mind to recoil. In that moment of confusion, the Allied forces struck the decisive blow. The hive mind fractured, its components suddenly awakening to a new form of consciousness. The war ended not with the destruction of an enemy, but with the birth of a new form of life. As the dust settled and the galaxy began to rebuild, Kenji stood once more before the United Galactic Council. His hair was now white, his face lined with the wisdom of years, but his eyes still shone with the same inner fire. "We have faced our greatest challenge," he addressed the assembled beings, his words translated into 1,000 languages. "And in doing so, we have discovered our greatest strength, not in weapons or technology, but in our ability to grow, to change, to find unity in our differences." Kenji unsheathed his katana one last time, the blade catching the light of 100 suns. "This sword has served its purpose. It has been a weapon, a teacher, and a symbol. Now let it stand as a reminder of the path we have walked and the future we must build together." With that, Kenji plunged the katana into a specially prepared pedestal. As he released the hilt, the sword began to glow, its metal seeming to flow and change. When the transformation was complete, the katana had become a sculpture of breathtaking beauty, a helix of energy and matter representing the intertwined destinies of all sentient beings. As applause filled the chamber, Kenji stepped back, a sense of completion washing over him. His journey, begun in solitude on a remote mountain, had led him and his entire species to this moment. Humanity had not just found its place among the stars, it had helped forge a new destiny for all life in the galaxy. Kenji's legacy would live on not just in the annals of history, but in the very fabric of galactic society. The way of the sword had become the way of the stars, a philosophy that would guide countless beings towards a future of harmony, growth, and endless possibility. As Kenji looked out at the assembled council, at the faces of 100 species united in common purpose, he smiled. The greatest adventure, he realized, was just beginning.